my phone. Okay. So good afternoon, dear listeners, and welcome to the second meeting that this selection commission is having. As you know, we're here to select the future director of the Bureau for Economic Security. My name is Laura Ștefan, and I'm the chairperson of this committee. As required by law, we have published online on the Cabinet of Ministers website the agenda of this meeting, and we announced the meeting with more than 24 hours in advance.
Про проведення засідання заздалегідь за 24 години. Перше, давайте перевіримо кворум, чи у нас є кворум для проведення засідання. Я запитаю в інших членів комісії і попрошу вас сказати присутній українською або англійською, коли назву їхні імена. Олег?
Присутній.
Donatas?
Донатас?
Present.
Присутній.
Tetiana?
Тетяно?
Присутня.
Yuri?
Юрій?
Присутній.
Jim?
Джим?
And I'm
Присутній.
Laura, and I'm here.
І я.
So all of us, 6 members of the selection committee are present. Let me briefly go through the agenda and see whether you have additional points to be included for our discussion today. So first of all, I suggest that we approve the rules of procedure for the selection commission. Second on the agenda is the approval of the procedure on the competition assessment methods and criteria. And third on the agenda is the approval of the announcement of the competition. Do any of my colleagues have additional points to be included in the agenda? I don't see any raised hand. Therefore, I suggest that we vote for the adoption of the agenda. We'll go again in order. James?
I agree to it.
Thank you. Oleg? Donatas?
Yes, I support the agenda.
Tetiana?
Я за.
Thank you. Yuri?
Так, я за. Підтримую.
Thank you, Yuri. And I support the adoption of the agenda. Therefore, we have 6 votes in favor and the agenda is therefore approved. We go directly to the first item of the agenda, and I would like to share with our listeners the fact that we have shared the draft rules of procedure in the spirit of transparency with colleagues from the civil society who have taken time to read and reflect on these draft rules of procedure, and also have submitted suggestions to the Commission. I think the majority of the suggestions aim to increase the publicity and transparency of the selection process, and we share those principles. Therefore, I don't see a big need for detailed discussions on why we incorporate some of them. Others are also reflecting on the legal provisions that needed to be correlated with the rules of procedures. Again, no big issues there. I will briefly go through the suggestions that were made, and we think we should include them in the document. The first suggestion was to have very clear deadlines for publication of documents managed by the Commission, for example, documents that are submitted by the candidates, and also the publication of Commission decisions and meeting minutes. We have reflected on clear deadlines, and they are included in the regulation. Then we stressed that the Commission can use and may use information gathered by NGOs in the assessment process of candidates. In other competitions, NGOs have been very instrumental in doing research on the candidates and submitting to the Commission and publish online information about the candidates that proved to be very, very useful in the assessment process. Then there was a suggestion that we also publish the marks given by each of the Commission member for each of the candidates. And I think we should also agree to that, provided that marks are given for that specific element of the selection process. We also agree that the meetings of the Commission should be open to international organization, media, and journalists. And we have also reflected upon the idea of allowing members of the Commission, of the Selection Commission, the 6 of us, to comment publicly on the evaluation of particular candidates. Again, this goes along the same lines stressed earlier. We want to be as transparent as possible and as open as possible in this process. There is one element that I would like to invite my colleagues to express opinions on, which is the element of having only public meetings, or also the possibility of holding preliminary meetings to discuss issues that are preparatory to the public meetings without taking any decisions. And also, in correlation with this element, the introduction of a clear provision to say that during the public meetings, we will openly discuss the compliance of candidates with integrity and professional criteria. I think this is one of the constant requests that commissions like ours have received from the civil society throughout the recent past. And I would like to maybe pause here and invite opinions from my fellow colleagues. Jim, please.
Yes, thank you, Laura. I anticipate this, I hope and expect, and we'll I'm sure we'll do our best to make sure this is transparent and to make it as lively and vigorous and rigorous a competition as possible in our discussions in our official meetings, which is not to say that I think that with the volume of people and documents that we may receive, that we should not foreclose, and in fact should adopt an option to have preparatory meetings for the sake of efficiency. These meetings would have nothing to do with our decisions. They would be purely more organizational and administrative, and I would think that would expedite and enrich the conversation that we would be able to have at our official meetings among the six of us, where we discuss individual cases and arrive at decisions purely in the public space.
Thank you very much, Jim. Donatas?
Yeah, I would fully support what Jim says, and those preparatory meetings, they are more of a technical nature, I would say, but not the discussions. Of course, all the discussions and opinions should be open. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. So we keep the preparatory meetings, but we introduce a very clear provision saying that we'll also publicly discuss the candidates' compliance with the integrity and professionalism criteria, if I understood you correctly. I don't see any objections. Okay, so unless there are points that you would like to raise with regard to the rest of the elements that I suggest we clarify in the rules of procedure, I can briefly go again through them. So introducing clear deadlines for the publication of documents submitted by the candidates, also for publication of decisions of the commission and of minutes of the meetings. The specification that we can clearly use information gathered by NGOs in the evaluation of candidates, the publication of marks given by each member of the commission to each candidate, the fact that our official meetings are, of course, public, not only streamlined, but if they are in person, we can accommodate the presence of international organization, media, and journalists. And each and every one of us would be allowed to publicly comment on the evaluation of particular candidates. Also, we will have open discussions on the compliance of candidates with the criteria of integrity and professional competence. So with these elements upgraded in our rules of procedure, I suggest we proceed to voting, and we'll go again in order. We'll start with James.
I agree to the adoption of those changes.
Thank you, thank you. Oleg? Thank you. Donatas?
Yeah, I vote in favor for those adoptions.
Thank you. Tatiana?
Я підтримую також.
Thank you, Tatiana. Yuri?
Я також голосую за.
And I'm also in favor of the adoption of the rules of procedure. With 6 votes in favor, the rules of procedure are adopted. We go to the second point of our agenda. And here again, I want to stress that in the spirit of transparency, we have shared with the civil society the concept of the competition stages. And we have received a number of comments that I will briefly introduce shortly. Because they are relevant for the second point of the agenda, which is the approval of the procedure of competition and the assessment methods and the criteria. First of all, we received a recommendation to specify a threshold for the legislative test. And there we will rely on already existing thresholds set by the regulation of the Cabinet of Ministers. And we will incorporate that threshold in our rules of selection. Then we also received a comment that we should evaluate with points the practical assignment and the managerial and leadership assignment. And here I would like to pause for a second because being part also of other selection processes, I think it's quite difficult to assign a numerical value to these practical tests and leadership and managerial tests. So here I would rather be in favor of not giving clear points for these assignments, but keep them in mind in the evaluation of the applicants. So I would like to open the floor to see if we have other opinions on this point before moving to the others. Jim, I think you raised your hand. Yes.
I did, physically this time. So I agree that we should probably not have assign a point system because these will cover these. I'm assuming that these tests will cover a wide range of different skills that become evident to us in the course of the test. So I would be hesitant to say 6, 9, 12, 21. Rather, I would like to have to bear in mind what I observe or what the observations are as we discuss individual candidates.
Thank you, Jim. I have to say that I concur with you on this point completely. I think it is important to also allow for a qualitative type of assessment to be taken into account later on in the evaluation.
And may I add that if you assign a point value, then it's difficult. It makes comparative analysis much harder. So we're going to be comparing to find the best.
Yes.
So I think it's important that we not say, well, he got a 9, he got a 6, therefore, or she got a 6, therefore, she obviously is better.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. Any other views? Okay, so I think on this one, we will keep what we have now in our procedure. Then it was suggested that we split the interviews into a preliminary interview and a final interview. We looked at the legislation, and unfortunately, it doesn't seem to allow us to split the interview phase into two separate interviews. Rather, what I would suggest is that we have two phases of the interview phase. The first phase of the interview phase being focused on integrity, and the second phase of the interview phase being focused on professionalism. So basically, we'll have a process whereby a number of people qualify for the interview. We'll have interviews with everybody, first on integrity and second on professionalism, accepting that, of course, the interview will be treated as a whole, but organize it in two phases so it is easier for us to reflect upon the findings that we gather at the interview. So I would like to see what your views are on this point. Yes, Donatas.
Yeah, so that's a very good proposition by the civil society organizations, and probably I would be really in favor of this, to having two separate interview, and only those who qualified, let's say, or gone through the integrity interview, we would have only final discussion with those regarding to some professional competences. So we would not need to keep in mind that is there any integrity issues with the candidates in the final stage. But unfortunately, as you already rightly mentioned, we cannot do this. And probably your suggestion to have like two parts of the same interview, knowing that inevitably some people who have integrity issues will be in the second part, which is unfortunate, and the organizations, civil society organizations, and the people of Ukraine should probably understand that being in the last part of the interview doesn't really means that this candidate doesn't have some integrity issues, which will be evaluated later on. So long story short, I would be in favor, but unfortunately we are bound by some legal provisions, and you suggested probably it's the best solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Donatas. Yuri?
Дякую. Дійсно, ми маємо тут виконати вимогу закону, а вона чітка і однозначна. Закон вживає слово співбесіда в однині, тому це має бути одна єдина співбесіда, але з двох змістовних частин. І я думаю, що буде правильно, якщо ця єдина співбесіда з двох змістовних частин для кожного окремо взятого кандидата буде проходити в один день. І спочатку в першій частині він буде мати питання, які присвячені, які стосуються його доброчесності, а в другій частині, які стосуються його компетентності. Так, і кандидату буде легше готуватися до співбесіди, і слухачам, спостерігачам, громадянському суспільству буде зрозуміло, де ми говоримо з кандидатом про доброчесність, а де про компетентність. Ну і зрештою так ми виконаємо вимоги закону. Тому я підтримую вашу пропозицію. Дякую.
Thank you very much, Yuri. If there are no other interventions, I also would have preferred to have two separate interviews, but I think it was clearly explained why we cannot have that, because we need to comply with the legislation that sets the limits and the mandate of this commission. Then there was a point that was brought to our attention about how many people should qualify for the interviews. We suggested that not more than 20, but I want to clarify that we won't be cherry picking who qualifies for the final interview. It will be a system of points that would basically automatically send to the next to the interview phase those that have received a minimum threshold, and then out of those, the first 20 or not more than 20. Yes, we could potentially have 25 people that pass the threshold, but we won't be able to invite to the interview more than 20. In the same time, we could have 15 people that pass the threshold, and then we won't be able to take an additional group of 5 from those that haven't passed the threshold. But I think that the essence here, the question that we need to ask ourselves is if 20 people for the final interview, or should I say for the interview, because we only have one phase of the interview, are enough, too little, or too much. So I would like to open the discussion on this point. Personally, considering my previous participation in similar exercises, I want to say that an interview on one of those two topics takes about an hour, even with the best management of time. So we'll have about 2 hours for each candidate. Donatas first and then Oleg.
Yeah, this is exactly what you said, Laura. If the one interview with the one candidate for one part of the interview takes at least 1 hour, so we have at least like 2 hours per candidate. So 20 candidates, like 40 hours, which is the whole working week, non-stop doing interviews. And then I would doubt, of the quality of those interviews, as I'm really looking forward to them as one of the main criteria, not criteria, but let's say the main tools of selecting the best candidate. And I have really my doubts whether 20 is not too much. Because well, it's a very large number to go up into the final stage, and probably from my previous experience in any interviews, in the final interviews, I would never go for as many as 20 candidates to have interviews. I'm just a bit worried that 20 might be too much. Thank you.
Thank you, Donatas. Oleg.
Дякую, пані Лаура. Шановні колеги, я підтримую те, щоб ми все ж таки зупинилися на цифрі 20 кандидатів, які будуть допущені до співбесіди. перед нами, як комісією, стоїть завдання відібрати 1-2 переможців конкурсу. І тому ми, ставлячи планку 20 кандидатів, допущених до співбесіди, і так даємо можливість дійсно найкращим після щільних етапів попередніх відбору, ми даємо можливість всім достойним кандидатам, гідним кандидатам бути допущеним до співбесіди, щоб ми вже більш детально з ними могли поспілкуватися. Тому цифра в 20 кандидатів, я рахую, оправдана, і вона абсолютно відповідає вимогам конкурсу. Більш того, аналізуючи досвід проведення інших конкурсів, я так вважаю, що ми достатньо високу планку поставили для тих осіб, які будуть брати у конкурсі, і дамо можливість дійсно найкращим потрапити на співбесіду. Дякую.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Oleg. I want to reiterate, we're talking of a maximum of 20. It is possible that that less than 20 people qualify for the final interview, meaning that they meet the threshold. However, I have observed myself that candidates in Ukraine tend to be very well prepared. So I would not expect to have realistically less than 20 people. But I wanted to mention that this is a distinct possibility. Tatiana.
Дякую. Я б хотіла підтримати те занепокоєння Донатаса про те, що, мабуть, ми ставимо собі досить таки високу планку, але одна надія на те, що серед цих людей ми знайдемо якісного фахівця для тої посади, для якої створена ця комісія. Хоча, звичайно, розумію, що, можливо, і Лаура права, що, можливо, в нас не буде такої великої кількості, і хотілося б, щоб їх було якісних, але менше для того, щоб визначити належну особу. Тому я розумію, що в нас це питання виникло і з громадянським суспільством, і мені здається, що вони мають також розуміти, що ми занепокоєні і не можемо для себе однозначно визначитись, але для максимальної інклюзивності, для того, щоб дати можливість і обрати найкращого, ми маємо такий варіант, таке рішення прийняти. Я підтримую це рішення, яке ви озвучили. Дякую.
Okay, so we have a question mark on the 20, but two in favor of the 20, maximum of 20 people. Donatas?
Yeah, maybe just to add something, I was thinking, since we cannot have this barrier inviting to the final interview only those who don't have any integrity issues, so logically thinking, within those 20 in a final interview, there might be somebody who would have a integrity issue. So maybe the number of those candidates who do not have any integrity issues, and we will be basically selecting from in a final interview, will be less. So maybe, okay, let's go for 20 and not more than 20, and let's see how it goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Donatas. Other comments on these points? Jim?
Yes, I would support the idea of a maximum of 20, because I think that to call the best from 20 in the course of 40 hours of interviews, if we do have 20, is going to be extremely challenging, practically speaking. It's also not best practice, by the way. Best practice is to have a much smaller number of on whom you can really concentrate and really elicit the kind of responses that you would want to make an informed judgment. So I think 20 up to 20 is already quite generous, and so I would suggest that we not bring it lower, but we think about it seriously as as up to 20.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jim. I don't see any other interventions, so let me recap what we have discussed. We will introduce a threshold for the legislative test, and we will take that from the regulation of the Cabinet of Ministers. We will not give points to practical assignments and to the managerial leadership part, but we will keep them in mind for the assessment. We cannot have a preliminary and a final interview as it was explained, but what we can do and will do is that we will split the interview into two phases. The first phase will focus on integrity for all the candidates, and the second phase will focus on professionalism for all the candidates that have passed to the interview phase. And the threshold for passing is no more than 20 for the reasons that were previously explained by my colleagues. If we don't have any other suggestions for amending these rules, I suggest that we vote for the adoption of the rules on the competition assessment methods and criteria. And again, we'll go in order. Jim?
I'm in favor.
Thank you. Oleg? Thank you. Donatas?
Yes, I vote in favor.
Thank you. Tatiana?
Так, я за.
Thank you. Yuri?
Я голосую за.
Thank you, and I'm in favor, Laura. So we have 6 votes in favor. Therefore, the competition rules are approved. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. The third point of the agenda is the approval of the announcement for the competition. Traditionally, candidates are being given approximately 4 weeks to submit their applications. But it so happens that at least the competitions that I've been part of are organized over Christmas and New Year. So I suggest that we are a bit more generous. And if we publish the announcement next Monday on the 23rd of December, we allow our potential applicants to send their applications by the 24th of January, which is, if I'm not wrong, a Friday. Yes, it is a Friday. So we'll have a little bit more than 4 weeks. We'll have almost 5 weeks. We want to encourage candidates of various backgrounds to come forward and apply. We're looking for people with a background in law or economics. So this is not a very narrow type of competition where we look for a very narrow profile. We want people that understand the sector, but we want also people that maybe have different perspectives on how the Bureau should operate, or that have significant experience in management of similar entities, or have ideas of how to organize the work of the Bureau better. So I would like to open the floor for you, dear colleagues, on the point of the deadline for application, which I propose to be the 24th of January. And on to invite you to say a few words about the candidates that we're looking for and encourage potential candidates to apply. I think it is very important to hear it from us and hear our message to them. Oleg.
Дякую. Я хотів висловитися щодо дедлайну. Повністю підтримую збільшення такого терміну подачі документів, тому що в тих умовах, в яких знаходиться наша країна, в цей важкий час, в умовах відключення електроенергії, обстрілів постійних і інших проблем, я думаю, кожен додатковий день для кандидатів абсолютно підтримується, тому я підтримую таке збільшення. Дякую.
Thank you. Maybe before other interventions, I would like to maybe not apologize, but acknowledge to our future candidates the fact that we are demanding them to submit documents that are already in the possession of the state sometimes. We are bound by the legal provisions in doing so. There's not much freedom that we have as a commission. We have to comply with the legislation, and therefore we took that also into account, as some of the documents need to be obtained from various public institutions which have operating hours that are not regular maybe during this period. Tatiana.
Дякую. Так, я би теж хотіла запросити кандидатів якомога швидше подавати документи. І цим нашим рішенням, подавати їх до 24 числа, ми говоримо про те, що хочемо створити їм хороші умови для якісної підготовки документів і для проведення свята. Ми розуміємо, що наші дії, проведення оголошення, подачі документів припадає безпосередньо на різдвяні свята, новорічні, тому ми б хотіли побажати їм гарно провести ці свята, але не забувати про те, що їх чекає відповідальна робота, і цей час, 24 січня, дедлайн, який дасть можливість їм якісно підготуватися і подати, і реалізувати свою мрію. Я сподіваюся, що в нас будуть кандидати, які мріють очолити такий орган і принести користь державі та громадянському суспільству. Дякую.
Thank you very much, Tatiana, for your kind words. I don't see further interventions. So, dear candidates, please apply and please consider that this is a very serious deadline. We do not intend to extend it. We think we have taken into consideration and already incorporated in our decision to keep the deadline to January 24th, the potential difficulties that may be encountered in accessing particular documents. So we think that we have already allowed for a significant period for applications. Donatas.
Yes, so I'm also in favor for the setting up the date for the provision of the documents. Also, what I would like to emphasize in regard to the candidates themselves, because in the English version of the document, it's not very clear, but I would like to emphasize what we are looking forward for any private or those who have experience of working in a private and public sector. So there is no distinguishment, you know, if you have experience and you have necessary skills. Well, personally for me, what is I'm not talking about the personal integrity. Yeah, so this is like without a doubt, you know, the candidate should be crystal clear, but also what is really important for me is like a resistance to some illegal or political or any other influence to run this organization, and of course lead by example, and innovation. One of the key things, you know, especially keeping in mind that this is the analytical organization also who does the analysis. So all the innovation, and it's very important how it should be and could be implemented. And of course, what is very important in that particular case of BES, you know, just ability to turn around the failed organizations. Because from what I've learned from all the documents provided to me, is really, I would consider probably the project of a BES as for now is failed, and it is much harder to turn around the failed organization rather to establish a new one right from the scratch, because in the failed organizations you have lots of things to redo, reorganize, and this is not that you're making from the scratch. So these are the features I would be looking for, and these I believe they're very important. And I would encourage all the people who have by themselves or know somebody who might have those features, and abilities, just to recommend and to send the documents and apply for this position. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Donatas, for these reflections on the profile of the candidate. I think they're very, very useful for our potential applicants to hear. If there are no other interventions, then I suggest that we proceed to voting. So we vote for the adoption of the announcement to participate in the competition. The announcement will be published probably on Monday on the website of the Cabinet of Ministers. We'll go in order. James?
I'm in favor.
Thank you. Oleg?
Я голосую за.
Thank you. Donatas?
Yes, I vote in favor.
Thank you very much. Tetiana?
Підтримую.
Thank you. Yuri?
Я голосую за. Підтримую.
Thank you. And I vote in favor. So with 6 votes, we have an unanimous decision, like the previous 2 in this meeting. We have approved the announcement for the participation in the competition and the publication of this announcement. And with this point, we have exhausted all the points on our agenda for today. I would like to thank you very much for your participation, and thank our listeners and viewers that have taken time on a for sure busy Friday to listen to our deliberations. Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned.
Дякую. Гарного вечора.